All right, so yeah, so today's topic is introducing you to using SQL Server from within ASP.NET. Okay. First, you'll need to install SQL Server if you don't already have it. You can look it up. I usually install this one, SQL Server Express. It's a free version for the community, and you can go there, the Express edition. There it is. If you click on there, it'll allow you to download it. So download SQL Server Express. It'll ask you to log in. So you'll need to open an account with Microsoft if you don't already have it. And in there, there's several tools that you can download. Well, you'll have to fill this out. Some contact information, very minimal. I download the Express version 64-bit and also the Management Studio. So one of them is the actual server, right, that runs in the background and you can connect to and start interacting with it. And then this one is the client. So one is the server, the one is the client. So this is a client that is an application that allows you to connect to a database and create tables, insert, delete, do all, everything that you would need to be able to interact with the database. So anyway, you download it, you install it, you run through the various installs. All of that again is in my YouTube channel. If you want to just run through the way how to install it, I'm not going to do it here because first of all, I've already installed it. I already have it on my machine. When it gets installed as a service by default. Okay, that means that it'll show in your service control panel, right? So just let me show you real quick. So I'm going to look for the administrative tools. There are administrative tools, and in the administrative tools you have services. There it is. So if you double click on that, it shows all the things that are running or not. Right? These are all the services in the Windows OS. If you search for SQL Server, there it is. It says that it's running already. Okay. I have it set up so that if you double click on it, I have it set up so that it's automatic, meaning when the machine restarts, it automatically starts the database. Right. And that's fine when you're developing, you're using it from day to day. If instead seldom uses, right, I might as well just make it manual, and then you'll have to manually start this. All right, and to manually start this, you do the same thing. You come here, and then you can click on the links on the left-hand side to start or stop the server manually, or double click, and you have here buttons that you can start and stop the server. Okay, makes sense. The name that is the server is registered as is this one, SQL Express, all caps. See that? So for our to be able to connect to it, you'll need to know that name. Okay, so that's the name of the or the IP address if you know the IP address. All right. What else? So it's running. So the other tool that I installed here was SQL. There it is, SQL Server 2014 Management Studio. Right. If you open that up, there it is. So notice that it knows that there is a instance of the server already running at that location. I'm going to copy that because I'm going to need that string later on. There it is. So Jose-Surface, that's the name of this machine, / the name of the server that's running there. Okay. It's using Windows authentication, meaning if I'm logged into the machine, it'll use the same authentication to log into the server. So I'll say connect. So there it is. At first, the very first time you come in here, there won't be any databases. Yeah, there won't be any databases. Right now, I created a dummy database, DB1, right? But at first, there won't be any databases. So you'll need to create a database. You can say you can right click on it and say I want a new database. So I'll create one for this course, CS4550, and I'll say OK. And there it is. So CS4550. If you open it up, there are no tables. Okay, there are no, well, other than the system tables. There are none of your own tables. So yes, we have the database there. We're not going to create it. You can create the databases from here, but instead I'm going to create them from Visual Studio. Okay, from Visual Studio, you can connect to the same database, that this is the client, right? There's a client connecting to the server, interacting with the server. We'll do the same thing, but from Visual Studio. Visual Studio also has its own client UI that can connect to a database. It's not as sophisticated as the Management Studio. Management Studio, that's all it does, connects to a database, and so it's pretty sophisticated. But we want to learn how to interact with it using Visual Studio. Okay, all right. And also, this is not a database course, so I'm not gonna spend too much time here. All right. So the only thing I came in here to do is create the database. That's all I did. Okay. I didn't create any tables. All right. So I'm gonna close that. And I'm going to start Visual Studio. Again, all of these, well, it's being recorded now, but I have dedicated videos for each one of these steps. Okay, if you want to go back and revisit this. Right. So let me open up the website that we've been working on. Website essentials. Okay. Notice that there's a tab here, Server Explorer. You can expose it by clicking one of these options down here in View, if they're not already visible in your Visual Studio. And you can connect. You can say connect to a database. Right now we're already connected to a database, but let me cancel that. Let me close that connection. Let me close it. So say. Delete the connection. I'm going to remove the connection. So at first you'll come here and it'll be empty. Your Visual Studio will not be connected to any database whatsoever. But you can say, we can refresh. Notice that I'm refreshing. It's not connected at all. You can say right-click, Add Connection, wait a minute. Create new SQL Server database. Okay, here's the connection. So you'll need to tell it, okay, so who am I connecting to, right? Where's the server running, right? On what machine, what IP address is the server running, and what's the name of that instance? And remember, I copied it earlier, right? When I was using the studio. So I did that, and then you can say, well, under there. There might be several databases under there. Oops, paste it. Under there might be several databases, and if you right-click here, it'll connect to the database and to the server and list what databases it found in there. Remember that we had the DB1, the dummy one that I had created earlier, and the one I just created 2 seconds ago, right? CS4550 for this course. Yes. So we're going to say I want to connect to that database, right? So I'll connect to that. You can test the connection. If everything's good, it'll say yes, I can connect to that database. We'll say okay, okay, and now it'll show here on the left-hand side, right? Everybody's good? Right. Okay. Now that we have a database, it's time to populate it. Now put stuff in there. So let's start by creating a couple of tables where we can capture some information. Right? So let's we can say right click and say if you open it up, you can peruse any tables that are already there, but we don't have any tables. We never created any tables. You can right click on the tables folder, and you can say add new table. Now it opens up a UI that allows you to declare your table. So the bottom half is the SQL for creating the table, and above you have a UI that has a graphical or a table version, graphical version of what's down below. So below is the textual version, and above is like kind of like the graphical version of the same table. Okay. So since we've been working through a project of creating courses and faculties and professors and students registering for courses. So let's create a table here for capturing courses. Okay. So let's I'm going to name the table course. Right. The square brackets are optional. It allows you to use special characters, but if you're not using any special characters, you don't need the square brackets. Okay, but for safety, by default, the UI always puts square brackets just in case you want to use special characters or anything. Right. Anyway, so that's the name of the course. Here it creates an initial field in that table called the ID. Right. And that ID, notice that it's adding some constraints saying that this is a primary key, meaning that this has to be unique, right? That field has to be unique, that it uniquely identifies this record, right? It cannot be null, right? It has to be unique, and also because it's a primary key, it can be referenced by other tables. Other tables can reference this table through this ID. Okay, I'm going to add something additional here. I'm going to add identity. Right, and identity, what it does is that when I create records, right, and when I insert records into the course table, I have to make sure that that ID is unique. Right, so I don't want to have to remember, what are the IDs that I've already used, right, and what's the next ID I should use. So instead, I'm going to leave that up to the database, right? So identity does that. It says, hey, you deal with the primary keys. Okay, you make sure that they are unique. Right? Whenever you insert a new one, just use the next available key. Okay, so I don't want to have to deal with that. And then I can add additional fields. Maybe courses have titles. So I'll use title. And I can tell it what type it is. I'll say that this is a varchar. Okay, and it can be null. All right. So notice at the top, as I type at the bottom, the top half is being updated. You see that? Right. So they want to be in synchronous. So you can either add the fields down at the bottom, or you can add the fields down at the top, right? Up at the top. So here I'll add another field. I'll call it price. Okay. And notice that the bottom is updating. You see that? It added the field price and a default data type for that, and characters. Instead, I want this to be a number, so I'll say that this is float. Okay, and by default, it allows null, so it can be null value. All right, so let's leave it like this for now. Okay, that's simple enough. Everybody okay with this? Everybody good? Right. No, this has not yet gone out to the database. Right. This is still local to us in Visual Studio. The database doesn't know anything about this table yet. Okay. To tell the database to actually create this table, we need to click on the update button at the top. See that? Top left. We create an update, and it goes out to a database and says, hey, database, is this table okay? Can you create it for me? And it'll say yes. So create the database, the table in that database. All right, so presumably the table has been created, and we can close this. We can go back to the Server Explorer. We can refresh. This goes out to the database and says, hey, database, what tables do you have? And it downloads and says, oh, yeah, this is the table you just told me to create. There it is on the left-hand side. You see that? It's there. We can open it Okay, we can open the table. If we double click it, it opens. See, it opens the definition of the table. You can make modifications, add fields, remove fields, and what it'll do is it'll alter the schema of the table in the database if you need to make changes to the schema. Or if you right-click and says that I want to see the data, show the data, the table data, it'll open up a graphical UI that allows me to interact with the data that is already there in that table. Notice that there are no records. Notice that at the top half, at the top, we have the headers. We have the names of those fields, and then we would have, one row for each record. We don't have any records. Okay, so let's create a couple records. So let's create here the course. The course is web dev price. Notice that I'm not entering anything for the ID. Okay. Notice that the database automatically chose 1 as the primary key. And that's because I added the identity keyword at the end of the primary key. Yes? If I had not added that identity, I would be forced to have entered that number, that primary key. Right? But I don't want to have to deal with this. The reason is that we're going to be inserting, deleting again, right? And then I'm going to have to keep track of, what's the next available primary key, right? I don't want to have to do that. So I'll just leave it up to the database to choose the primary keys. Okay? So what other courses? Let's see. Intro to DB. Okay, a couple more. Maybe Java 101. We'll say ASP.NET 101. What else? All these are inserts, right? These are being inserted in the database. Okay. What else? Node.js 1. Okay. Refresh. All right, so that data is already in the database. So let me close that. Close that. All right, so now we have data in our table. It's time to start interacting with this. Okay. Now ASP.NET provides quite a few tools, right, or HTML components that are specifically targeted at interacting with databases. Okay, that make generating websites that interact with tables, inserts, and deletes and updates very, very easily. Okay, so let's start creating something very simple. Let me go in here and create an experiment under here. Under experiments. And so this is I'm going to create a new folder here, and I'll call it SQL. Under here, I'm going to create a new page, and we'll say we'll introduce you to the first of these components, the data grid, or the grid view. Grid. So okay. Okay. So up to this point, it's just a simple web page like any other. All right. So let me just name it grid view. We run it. I have nothing special. Right, it's just a plain old web page like any other. But we can, if we stop this, you'll need to stop it, right, to be able to use the components. You'll notice that on the left-hand side, I have this toolbox. Okay, and this toolbox has a couple of things that we've already seen. For instance, in the standard, for instance, last week we took a look at the label, ASP:label. Remember that? We did that last week. Yes. What else did we look at? We looked at button, right? ASP button. We looked at text box, right? Text box. Right. So these are all components that you can drag right in here. So instead of typing like we did last week, you can open up the toolbox and you can look at the toolbox. You can show it from view, and you can select toolbox. There it is down here, toolbox. If it's not showing already, you can only interact with it when the server is not running. Okay, when the server is running, it blocks and you can't use it. But anyway, so last week we were playing around with these components. We were actually typing them, right? Instead of typing them, you can drag them over, right? So these the labels, you can just drag it in the UI, and it types it in for you. So it already adds the run at server, any text, initial text for the label, an ID, right? So it's already populated, right? You can pop also all the other ones. So text boxes here, you can just drag it in there. So most of what we typed by hand last week, we can just drag and drop from the toolbox. Okay, all right. Buttons is there. You can also add buttons. ASP button. All right, everybody good? And you can do the same thing that we were doing last week. You can say on click, right, and it generates the event handler and whatnot, right? And the event handler is up here. So this is what we did last week, right? So we're not going to go over that. I'm just going to erase all that. We're not going to use any of that. Okay. I noticed that down here, something that we haven't used in this class yet are, we've always been in the source view. See that at the bottom? Well, there's several other views that can be used to look at your page. One of them is the design view. Is what would your page look like? So this is kind of like a preview of what your page would look like if you run this on a browser. Okay. So in the grid view, in the design view, you can drag quite a few other really interesting and useful components, right? Here's the one we're going to take a look at today, grid view. Right? Grid view allows you to connect to a database, right, and display the content of a table that is already out there, right? Well, not only tables, right, but any source that is formatted in some tabular format. Okay, you can also have two-dimensional arrays or collections, right? And you can plug it into a grid view. It'll display it like a table, right? But is uniquely useful when you make it so that it can interact with the database. Okay, so let's do that. If you go to a Server Explorer and you navigate to the table that you want to interact with, right? One cool thing that you can do is drag that table right on the design view and drop it in there. Just drop it in there. Okay. What it does is that it creates a grid view for you. It creates a grid view for you, and it creates two things actually. It creates a grid view and it creates a data source, a SQL data source. So the SQL data source says, hey, I'm connected to this database, right? To this table, right? And then the grid view says, oh, and I am connected to that data source, right? So I am I'm retrieving the data that I'm displaying is data that I'm extracting from that SQL data source. So the data source is connected to the database, and the grid view is connected to the data source. Make sense? Let's look at this. Notice the headers at the top. You see that? Those headers, they're the same fields that we created in the table, aren't they? ID, title, and price. You see that? Right? So it looked at the schema of the original table. It looked at the fields were ID, title, and price, and it's creating for me the columns for each one of the fields. You see that? If I just run this, the default behavior, right, is to just connect to a database and retrieve all the records from the database table, right? Very cool, right? I mean, how much easier could it be to just go out, connect to a database, drag it in there, connect to the database, and it displays the table. Okay, right? Everybody okay? Right. So let's take a look at the data source. Notice I selected it, and I'm going into the source. So on the page, remember we had only added this this grid view, and we had this div. Actually, I want everything to be in the div. There we go. So so we have two things. I had only added the H1. When I dragged the table onto the page, it added two things. It added this grid view. Okay, it added the grid view, and it added this SQL data source down here. Down here. Okay, it added those two components. Right. Let's look at the data source first. Let me stop this. What's that? Okay. All right, so the data source, we give it a name, right? We give it a name that it's an ID that identifies it as a unique resource in this page. So other things could refer to this, right? So this is a unique name in the page so that other things can refer to it. In specifically the grid view, right? Notice that it's referencing the SQL data source. You see that? The grid view says, where am I getting the data? Where is the source of my data? Oh, it's that SQL data source over there. That's where I'm getting the data from. Okay, right? So let's look at the data source. Let's look at it for a second. There's a couple things here. Obviously, we have the ID. We have the run at. Right? We have the connection string. The connection string is a string that uniquely identifies the connection to that database that can be reused in other places so that we can create other connections to the same database. Then it has hard-coded the commands, the various SQL commands that it's using to render, right, to retrieve, to interact with the database. For instance, it has the delete command, right? Here's the delete command that it's using. This is the insert command, right? Although we don't know how to insert just yet. We have provider name. That's a connection string. We have the select command, the SQL command. So selects, ID, title, and price from course table, and the update command. So these are the SQL commands that the SQL data source is using to interact with the database. Okay. And that's it, right? And then at the bottom, notice that over here we have these at ID, at title, at price, right? That means that these are parameters. These are parameterized, right? If you're going to update, you're going to have to tell me, if you're going to update a course, you're going to have to tell me the new title of the course. You need to tell me the new price of the course. And you'll need to tell me the ID of the course that you're updating, right? So those are all parameters. Okay. And down here is the way you can configure these parameters. We'll be using this in a minute. We'll be creating our own parameters in a second. Now at the top, it's creating the grid view component, right? It's giving it an ID, and then it's saying that these are the columns that I was able to gather from the SQL connection that I am related to. So I'm related to this SQL data source, and from there I gathered that these are the fields that are in that table. Okay, so that's how it renders over here. Okay, so when I do a refresh, what it's doing is using that select statement to retrieve the data. It's passing it to the grid view. The grid view iterates over the rows and renders this. Okay, right? And it renders it. If we look at it, if we look at the source, it renders just like a table, a regular table. There it is, the table row, right? Here's a table head to render the headers, right? And then you have the table rows for each one of the data rows, right? Just HTML. That's all the browser sees. Notice that the browser doesn't see anything about a data source or data or a grid view or anything like that, right? The only thing that the client sees, that the browser sees, is the rendered table. Okay. All right. Well, this gets a little more interesting. Let's go back to the design view. In the design view, here's a table. Notice that it has this arrow on the top right. If you click on it, there are a couple of things that you can configure. Okay, you can configure saying that that you want to enable deletion, for instance. If you enable delete, notice that it adds an additional column to the table. You see that? Right? It adds an additional column. If you click on enable editing, in the same column, it adds another link in there. You see that? It adds links for each one of the commands that you are enabling. Okay. If I run this, notice that that new column appears on the left-hand side. You see that? Edit and delete, and they actually work, right? So you can click on edit, and it replaces that row with actual input fields that allow you to edit the data, right? So InterDB CS5200. You can either cancel or update. So you do update, and it actually updates it. Okay, and the database has been that actually went and did an update on the database. Okay, using which command? Using using this update command. Right, it updated the title, updated the price for that particular ID. Okay, pretty cool. I can also delete it. If I click on delete, it just blows it away. That actually went out and deleted from the database. Right, very, very easy to create a user interface into a table. Okay, you can configure this further. You can go here and click that you want enable sorting. So now notice that the top row, right? No, those have become links, right? Notice that if I refresh this now, did I save? Maybe I didn't save. Save. Refresh. There they are. They're links, right? So if I click on the title, notice that it sorts. Notice that the page is being re-rendered. You see that? It's a postback, right? This is when I click on these links, it goes back to the server. The server reruns, right, the page. It re-renders the HTML, and then it gives me back the resulting HTML. Okay, it's not sorting in place. It's not deleting in place, right? The whole page is being re-rendered. Okay. What else? What else can you configure? Let's see. Sorting, blah blah, paging. Paging would allow you to, if you have a lot of data, okay, paging, what it does is that if it's more than, it's some maximum number of rows, it allows you to go, 10 at a time or 20 at a time or whatever, right? So you can look at the entire table, but paginated. Okay, so let me save that. Refresh. Notice that the pagination does not appear because we don't have that much data to begin with. Okay. All right. What else can you configure? If you open it up, if you go to auto format, you can choose all sorts of look and feels, right? So this is the default with no formatting. You can select colorful or classic or simple. You can select this, and what it does do is that it has several styling sheets that will color your will apply different styles to your page. So I'll use the classic is just blue. I'll say apply. Say okay, right? And I'll save. If I refresh, there it is. So my table now has blue at the top and has it's striped. Right? This is not using Bootstrap. It's using its own styling. Right? If you prefer Bootstrap, you can add Bootstrap to this. Right? Actually, let's do that. We go to auto format, and I'll just say remove formatting. I'll say okay. I'll save, and we're back to the boring look and feel, right? If you want to add Bootstrap, let's do that. Let's go to Bootstrap. And I'm just going to copy this link over here. And I'll paste that at the top of the head here. I'll paste that. And once I do that and I come back and I refresh, okay, I have new fonts, right? New fonts. Let's apply a couple of styles, a couple of classes. All the classes that we know of are available to us. We can go to div and we can say class container, right? But the grid view, notice that this is not a regular table tag. We know that it's going to use table as a tag to render, but there is no class attribute. See that? There is no class attribute. Instead, there's an attribute called CSS class. Okay, meaning what class do you want to apply to the resulting table? Okay, right? So we're going to say I want to apply table. I want to apply table striped. Okay, if I refresh, there it is. Now we have the familiar Bootstrap look and feel. Okay. All right, and it behaves the same way. Behaves the same way. Okay, and it sorts and whatnot. All right. Okay. What else? You can also configure the ordering, right? If you go and now, if you go edit columns, for instance, what you can do. Notice that you have the columns that were there initially, the ID, the title, and the price. But notice there's an additional column that was added when we told it that we wanted to, when we turned on editing and we turned on deletion and things like that, right? Deleting. So that's a column. It's this column, the very first column over here, right? It's this column over here, this column, this first one over here. It's called the command column, right? What we could do is move it. Maybe we want to put it towards the right-hand side instead, right? Let's move it to the right-hand side. We'll say OK. And we'll save, right, and refresh. Right, notice that they have been added to the right-hand side. Okay. All right. Let's see. So yeah, so we've been able to edit. We've been able to delete. Another thing that we need to be able to do is insert new things. We would like to be able to insert. We would like to be able to view details. Say these are the lists of the various posts that you've made throughout the week. Okay. Say we have a column here, right? Yeah, actually, let's do that. Let's say we have a let's add another table here. Right, and you have several reviews. Say you have several reviews of various books, right? So let's create another table. Say add table, right? And this table is the reviews for several books, right? So people review books. So let's leave the ID. We'll add identity here. And we'll add the title of your review. And this is varchar. Oops. Wait, this title. This is varchar. And we'll have here, this is the actual review content. This is varchar max. Okay. All right, so let's do that. And perhaps the actual review for the course, right? That course is amazing. That course is terrible, right? The actual course ID. right? And this is going to be an integer. And what we want to do, what we want to say is that this course ID, this is referring to a course. Say, you know, these are all the reviews for a course. So this is a foreign key, that course ID that references course ID. Oops. Okay. So what we're saying here that what we're saying here is that, you know, these are the reviews for various courses. So this is so these records say, you know, this is a review for that particular course. Okay. So let me update that. Let me update. Let's say update database. Okay. Let me close that. And let's add a couple of reviews. So let's refresh this. And the courses, what courses do we have? Okay, so web dev is the first one, right? And we're going to show the table. And we can say that the title is amazing course, best ever. And the course is saying that we are reviewing the course 1, which is web dev. Yes. And this one is the next one is boring. You know, stay away. Hopefully you won't say that. So these are the various reviews. But say that the review you could type something very long, right? You know, thousands of characters perhaps. Yes. So maybe a column for a view might not be the best way to view this table, right? So let's do that. Let's create a table, right? Let's create a page. Let's create a page here. We'll call it reviews. We'll say form. We'll call this 010-reviews. Okay. And we can add. We can first add the link. This link here. Why is it complaining? // here, and this is a container. Okay, so I'm going to drag in here. This is reviews. Oh, these are all reviews, right? All reviews. Put a div here where we're going to put our table, right? So let me go into design, and this I'm going to drag the reviews into that div. I'm going to drag it in there. There we go. Okay. Let me go into the source. There it is. So that's the grid view, and it's going to render the reviews. And I want to color it so that it renders with table and table. If I run that, it'll show all the various reviews. Now those reviews, right? I mean, they could be very, very long, right? They could be. Let me grab some dummy data, dummy text. It could be very, very long. You know, maybe this text over here. Oh, I can't edit it. Let me turn on the editing. Let me turn on the editing. Well, actually, I can do it in data. I can say 3. Oh, let me stop this. So here's another review. 3. Boring. Awesome. Now I'm going to paste the content. This is 1. Right? If I refresh this, notice that the review is there. So this might not be the best way to view this, right? This might not be the best way because, I mean, the content could be pretty long, right? Pretty huge. If I'm looking at a tabular format, you know, And also, I could have lots and lots of fields, right? I could have 20 fields, and each one with lots and lots of data. So this might not be the best way to view this, right? So I might choose not to render the review here. Okay, I might choose not to render it. So, for instance, in the review, right, in the grid view for the review, I can go and edit and say, I can go into edit columns and say that I don't want the review column here. I don't want the review column here. So I can remove it and say, okay, right, save it, and I can refresh, and it doesn't work. Reviews. There it is. So it removed the reviews. You see that? Okay, because it's way too big. Where would we want to see that? We would want to see it maybe in a details page, like in a page where we have maybe an entire page dedicated to one of these things. Okay, so typically you have at least 2 pages. One that shows a tabular display that displays kind of like the summary, right? Where you might maybe show the title, maybe a couple things that you can look at real quick. And separately, you want to have maybe a details page that shows the details about that one particular record. Make sense? All right, so let's create a details page for the review. All right, so let's do that. Okay, so let me add here another page. We'll call it 020-review. I'll call it review details. Okay. And I'll copy the link. Paste it here. I'll say that this is class container. This is H1 review details. Okay. And what we want to do here is I'm going to put in this div over here. I'll put the details. We'll put the details in here. Okay. All right. So let's do that. All right. I can go into the design view, and in my toolbox, notice that under the data section, right? Definitely we have the grid view that we've been using so far, right? This is the grid view that we've been looking at so far. We also have here a couple things, right? Details view. See that details view? It has, this is a very common thing that we want to do, right? We want to see a tabular view, like a grid view, right, of our data, and we want to see a details of a particular record that we might want to select. Correct? Right? So grid details view allows us to do that, right? Okay. Now, if I grab it and drop it in here, okay, one of the things that it's going to ask us is that, okay, I'm a generic details view. Tell me the details. You want to see the details of what? Okay, I need to tell it the details of the course, of the review, of what? Of some array? What is it? What do you want me to show the details of what? And notice that one of the things that you can choose is the data source, right? Where do you want to grab the data from, right? So you can say new data source, and it says, okay, I want it's from a database. You can say database. Okay, there it is, SQL source, and say okay. It says okay, I'll connect to it to that database, and then I can show you the connection string. Remember the connection string we mentioned earlier? That's a connection string for that database, CS4550. It's that one. I'll say next. And it says, okay, well, in there are several tables. Which one do you want me to show? The details of which table? I'll say reviews, right? And those are the fields. I can, if the first checkbox says that I want to see all the details, and I'll say finish. I'll say next. I'll say, all right, so this is a SQL statement that's going to use to retrieve the data. I'll say finish. Okay. I'll save that and run it. Okay, notice that what it's doing is that it's showing me the details, right? It's showing me the title, the review, and the course for the very first record. for the very first record. Okay, so by default, right, it assumes that you want the details of the very first record. I mean, I have many records, but I would like for this page to be actually be a little more smarter and not just show me hard-coded details of the first record. I would like to be able to tell it what, which record I wanted to show me the details of. I want record 1, 2, 3, 4. Which record do you want me to show you? Okay. Right. If we go to the source, we'll see that it added 2 components. One for the details view component, and the other one the data source component. Okay. And the data source component, it's using that connection string, and here's the select command that it's using. See that, the select command? Right? That select command, notice that it's a hard-coded select command. A hard-coded select command. What we would like to be able to do here is to say that I want you not to retrieve all the records. I want you to retrieve the record for an ID that I'm going to pass you as an argument. Right? I would like to do something like this. I would like to pass it ID 1. Meaning I want you to show me the details of the record whose ID is 1, or 2, or 3, or 4, or 5, or 6. And then this page will show me the details of the one record that I'm telling you I'm passing you as a parameter. That makes sense? Yes? Right? So what I'd like to be able to do is, don't retrieve all the records. Just retrieve the record whose ID I will tell you. Okay, so I would like to be able to do the select command that I really want you to use. Actually, let me make this a little more readable. That's it, right? And this is a closing. There we go. So I'm going to edit this SQL statement and say I want you to not select all the records. I want you to select the record from the reviews, all the fields where the ID, that's the primary key, is equal to some parameter. Okay? I will tell you what the parameter is. Okay? So I don't want you to retrieve all of them. I want you to retrieve the one that I tell you. Okay? So what we're going to do here is we're going to say, we'll need to parameterize this ID. We need to tell it, where do I get this ID? Who's going to give me this ID? Okay? We need to tell it, hey, that ID, you're going to grab it from the URL. Right? The URL has a parameter. Grab it from there. Or it could be maybe from a text box. Right? It could be that we generate a text box, and as we type the text box, grab the ID from the text box. Or maybe from a drop-down. Right? When you have a drop-down of all the courses, right? Of all the IDs of the courses, and when you select the drop-down, it chooses the ID from the drop-down, right? Let's do from the URL. Let's do it from the URL. So we need to tell it where to get that ID from, right? To do that, what I did is in the ASP component, inside, there are more elements that I could put in there. Notice that there are several that are provided to me: the delete parameters, filter, select parameters. That looks promising, right? The parameters, I can configure the parameters for the select command. If I select that, right, and I press enter, what? Select parameters. Select parameters. Okay, there it is. So query parameter string. So you can say where to grab the query string parameter. This is configuring. Why is it not letting me do it here? SP parameter. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I'm configuring here where to get the parameter. I'm saying that this is a parameter that is coming from a query string, right? So I want you to parse from the query string. I'm going to say the field in the query string is called ID, right? That's what I'm going to call it, ID. There it is. See, or maybe I should call it maybe something more specific. Course ID. How's that? Course ID. That's the field name. So I'll use that as a name. What else? What type is it? Is an integer. So it's int 32. And the name, this is the name of the field that I'm configuring. This is the field. This is this field. It's this one over here, this ID. That's the name of the parameter that I am configuring. Okay. All right. Let's see if this blows up. Course. Oh, 1. Okay, there it is. That's 1. There's 2. See that? Now it's showing me, right? If I choose 3, it'll show me the data for that 1. Okay, that makes sense. All right. We can configure this so that it uses a table to display this. Details, we can say this is CSS, the CSS class. I still want you to use table and table stripe. There it is. Why are you making it so small? Oh, I think it has some default. And some default styling for these over here. TD. It's grabbing. What is it grabbing? Padding. And we can configure all that. The height, the width. Notice that it has a hard-coded width of 125. We can configure that in our own CSS, right? On how we want this to look like. Let's leave it like that for now. Okay. Everybody okay? Right. So the nice things that what would happen here is that, you know, we have a table format, and we have a details format. It would be cool if we could navigate from one to the other, right? Notice that my reviews, right, does not show me the actual content of the review. Only the details page shows me that, right? So what we could do is link this reviews table to the details page, so that when we click on it, right, it navigates us to the details page. That'd be cool, right? All right, so let's do that. Let's go to the grid view. Let's go to the grid view. What is this? Right. Here we go. So this is our grid view. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to link it to the details page. So I'm going to copy that. Stop that. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to link it. I'm going to link this grid view. This will be 025 grid view linked to details. I'd like to link them together. Okay? So for instance, if I click on this, oh, I shouldn't close that. So I have the same grid view. But what I want to do is I want to configure this. I want to add another column. I'm going to say add new column. Okay. And the column, what I want to do is going to be a hyperlink field. I'm going to create a new field. Okay. And I want to give it a URL. Oh, why is this so small? I want to create a URL from a data field. Oh no, I can't see. Are you serious? Oh, Guru. Okay, maybe I can. No. Okay. Anyway, so I'm going to give it a format of what the URL that I want. I want to grab it from the ID, from the field, the ID field. Meaning I want to grab the ID, right, of this of any record. Meaning I'm going to generate a new column, right, a new field. That field is going to grab the ID, the value from the ID, and it's going to generate the following URL. Okay, it's going to go to another page, which I believe it's called. What's our details page called? This one, right? 020 review details. And this is what I'm going to pass, right? This is what I want to use. Okay, and that 3, I don't want to hard code it to be 3. I wanted to grab it from the ID, right? From this field over here, right? And I want to put this ID right here, and that's how we configure that. Okay. The text that I wanted to say is, I'll say details. Okay, so that's my field, and I'll say okay. Right. Okay, there it is. And that's 025. Let me save that and run that. There it is, details. See that on the right-hand side? So notice that if I hover over this, notice that it says, where's it going? 020 review details ASPX question mark course ID 1. This is course ID 3, course ID 4, right? That's linked to that page. It's what we were doing. Isn't that what we were doing by hand? We were typing this in. Now the links are generated for me. If I click on this, it navigates to the details page. You see that? Navigates to the details page for that one, or details page for that one. Oh, we don't have details for that one? Or what? What's going on? Okay. Why is it not doing this before? Interesting. Oh, reviews. Oh, we only have 2 reviews, right? Oh, we only have 2 reviews, and the reviews. Oh, no. Okay, so so these are not details, right? These are reviews. The grid should say what? The grid should say. No, where should this go? Actually, where should this go? This should be. These are actually no. I messed up. This I was supposed to link this one. All the reviews linked to the details of the reviews, not the course. Oops, did I just confuse everybody? This is the page that should be linked, right? All the reviews, right, linked to a particular review, right? Not the course. Okay. How can we fix that? How can we fix that? How can we fix that? Actually, what should this be? Definitely a details link to a for a course. But really, what we want to be able to do is link to what? Link to the reviews for a given course, right? Okay, let me fix it. Let's see. Let me fix that. It's this one. I copied the wrong one. It wasn't this one. It was this one. Stop this. Let me do it real quick. Okay, so it's this one. This one renders all the reviews. So let me rename this. This is all reviews. Right. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to say 030. I'm going to say link to review details. There we go. And so this page just shows all the reviews, right? Just shows all the reviews. Let's close all the other ones. So we have all the reviews, and we also have the other page, right? Close all but this. We have the details page. There it is, 020. So we have these two pages, right? We have this, all reviews, and what I want to do is, drill down into this particular review, or drill down into this review, or drill down into that review, and it'll come to show me the details for each one, right? By me providing, this should not be course ID, this should be review ID, right? Right, it should be like that. So let me fix that. Let me fix details, and the field that it's going to look for is review ID. Review ID. Okay. And review ID. Did I link? So this is update parameters. Blah, blah, blah. Here's the details, right? And where's the configuration? The configuration is right here. Yeah, here it is. This should be a review ID. Review ID. And that? There it is. 2, and then 3. Okay, so that the details page works. We're going to link this to that. So I'm going to say, click here. I'm going to link it. I'm going to say all reviews. I want to create a new column. Add a new column. This is going to be a hyperlinked column, and the tag is going to be details. And the I'm going to specify the URL field. I'm going to use ID, and I'm going to generate this URL. Generate that URL, and it's going to grab the ID from here. Let's save that. I'm going to refresh this. Okay, if I click on here, it goes. There we go. So these are all the reviews. If I click on this, it'll show me the details of that particular review. Okay? Everybody still with me? Okay, I'm navigating from all reviews to a particular review. From all reviews to a particular review. Okay? All right. Another thing that we might want to do is be able to create new reviews, right? We're going to be able to create new reviews. So I like an insert button here, right? That will navigate me to a page that would allow me to create a brand new review, right? So let's do that. Let's first create the page that allows me to create the new review. And say add. We'll do 35, so 035. Create new review. Okay, and in that review, let's copy the link to Bootstrap and paint this a little bit. Class container, and we'll say that this is a new review. Okay, and in here, what we're going to do, we're going to drop in there another details. We're going to drop a details control. Notice that I can't use the toolbox when it's running, so I need to stop it. And now I have access to the toolbox. Ooh, what happened to the toolbox? There we go. View. Toolbox. We're going to drag here the details page. Where is it? The details view. Okay. And we can go through the same data source and whatnot and the whole thing, right? What I like to be able to do is instead of going through creating a data source and everything, I can use the grid view for now. It's going to create the data source for me, and I can even though I don't want the grid view, I can just remove it and just keep the data source, right? So I can just drag it in here. It's going to connect to. Oh wait, no. I'll just drag the actual. Where is it? The table itself. Where is it? Server Explorer. Where's the table? So we want to create a new review. So let me drag the entire page. table, this would create the grid view, which I don't want the grid view, but I do want the data source that it creates. Right, there's the data source. But instead of a grid view, what I really want is the details view, using the same data source though. Right, so the data source that is there, it's already there. There it is. So now it's plugged in. Why is it so small? Let me run this. So this looks exactly the same as what we had earlier of just showing the first record. The first record. What I want to be able to do is to have this allow me to create a brand new record, to insert a record, right? To create. So what we can do here is we can configure it, and we can go to its properties. We can stop it and say view properties. Do I have properties here? If you click on the details view and you go to the properties, right, you can turn on several things. You can say, notice that you can turn on, I want to generate an insert button. I want to say, notice that by default it's false. I want it to be true. I want an insert button. Notice that the default mode is read-only. Instead, I don't want to read only because I want the fields for me to be able to type the new data. So I'm going to say no, this is insert mode, right? And I'm going to save that. Save that. I'm going to run it. I'm going to run it, and notice that this will allow me to create a brand new, so I'm going to call it brand new course. Amazing course. And I'm going to say that it's reviewing course ID 1. I'm going to say insert. Okay, so insert it, even though we didn't get any feedback that it actually inserted. If we go back and look at all the reviews, right, if we refresh, notice that the course has been inserted. See that? There it is, brand new course. And if I go to the details, I actually see the data that I typed. You see that? Right? So yeah, so we can insert, we can definitely insert, but the more common behavior that we would want is that from here, I would want some kind of like a plus sign, right? That would navigate me to the insert page, right? And then once I insert it and I say, okay, insert it, it would navigate me back here so I can see, you know, all my everything that I've added so far. Okay, and that's a common mechanism. So let's add that. So what's this? Which one is this one? This is link to review details. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to say link. I'm going to call it link to create page. Okay, so link. Oops. I'm going to rename it. Why is it so small? I'm going to call it 040 link to create page. Okay. So for that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a very simple link. I'm going to put right here where you have the H1, I'm going to put a button here. I'm going to say, or link that looks like a button. So href, I want you to go where? I want you to go to create. Where's create? There it is. Create new review. There we go. Okay. We'll navigate there, and I'm going to call it create. And this is I'm gonna paint it so that it's. Let me see what this looks like so far. If I run it. Okay, there it is. So if I click on it, indeed it takes me to the new review, right? But I'm gonna make it a little prettier. I'm gonna make this look like a button. So class button success. So it's green, and I'm gonna pull it to the right, full right. So it's way at the right-hand side. There it is, right? So if I click on create, it takes me to the new review, right? Where I can create a new review, and the behavior that I would want is that when I insert, I want to go back to the page I came from, right? That's the normal behavior. So You know, this is another one. This, right? This is another review. Awful. How do you spell awful? I don't know. One. If I do the insert and I go back to my original page and I refresh, notice that it's there, right? It is there. Okay. But I would like this to be, I don't want to have to navigate myself. I wanted to do it automatically, right? When I want to go to create, when I click on insert, I want to go back to my initial page, right? So after it creates, after it initializes, after it does an insert. So what I'm going to do in the create new review, I'm going to copy that. I'm going to copy this. And so that it does mostly the same thing. But what I want to do here is do 045, right? Return to list, or how about return after insert? How's that? Return after insert. So what we're going to do here, well, first of all, let's make it a little prettier, just by using this here. Let me add that here. Link. Oh wait, it's there. It is there. Why does it look so ugly? Oh. Okay. Well, leave it. Wait, can I change the width here? Border width. Border command, edit, field, footer, header. Can I say header style? No. Border, insert, pager, row style. Row style, can I change that? Change the percentage. No, that didn't work. Am I looking at the right one? 45. I'm looking at the wrong one. Figures. No, it's not changing that. What is it? What can I change with? Alternate row style, border width, command row, edit, empty. Header. Oh, never mind. So what I want to do is after I click on the insert, I want to go back, right? So to do that, in the details view, if you type here and you do the on, right, you start with the on, it shows you all the events that it can listen to, right? So for instance, you can say on item created, on item deleted, on item inserted. Look at that, on item inserted, meaning once the item has been inserted, what do you want to do? Right, so if I select that, and it allows me to create an event handler. There it is, create new event. You see that? If I select that, it creates for me a function right at the top. There it is. There's my function. Now this function will be invoked after the record has been inserted. What do we want to do? We want to navigate back to the page where we were. And that page is, I think it's this one, link to create page. Let's do that. So let's, it's this one over here, right? And I have it here, I believe. Where is it? No. Where do we have it? Is it 40? 40, right? That one, right? Yeah. I just want to copy the name. What I want to do is I want to be redirected to that page. So what I want to do is use response dot redirect, and I can give it the URL of where I want to be sent afterwards. Okay, so let's try that. Let's see. The last one we created was this is another review. Let's go to create. Go here, and it says this is yet another scathing review. Is that misspelled? Scathing. For course 1. I'll do insert. The insert, and it did not work. Oh wait, it's going to 35. Oh, it's linking to the old version, right? This should link to which one? To the 45, the new one, right? Let's change that. Let's change that. So return link. Right, so this should be linking to this one over here, right? It should be linking to this one. So let's copy that. And this will link to create here. There we go. .aspx. Back. Let's refresh. Right. Okay, there it is. It did insert it, but we never came back. So let's go. Okay, now we went to 45, the correct one. Right. So test 1, 2, 3. Test ABC. Course 1. Insert. There we go. It went back. See that? It went back. Well, what about cancel? We create cancel. If we create cancel, it stays here. So we have to do the same thing for cancel. Right? So let's do that. Let's do over here return. What we want to do is there is no event handler specific for the cancel button. But what we could do is that on item command, meaning this is a generic one, right? If any button is clicked, if anything is invoked, invoke this, right? So we're going to do that, and we're going to say, and then we're going to have to discern. We're going to have to discriminate and say, oh, well, which one did you click, right? So if you insert this one's going to be called. If you clicked on anything, this one will be called, right? So we need to do, if you leave it like this, if one might think that you could just do that, right? As well, if anything's click, either insert or cancel, I just want to go back, right? But if I do it this way, what's going to happen is that this one has priority over this one. Okay, so if I click on insert or I click on cancel, this executes before this, right? So if it gets to this, it's going to go away. It's going to go away. It never got to insert. Okay, it never gets to insert. So yeah, so this won't work. That won't work. So instead, what we want to do is we want to discern that if you click on cancel, redirect. And whereas this one, I want you to if you click on anything else, do not redirect. Instead, over here, when you this will only be invoked after the record has been successfully inserted. That make sense? Right. So if I click on cancel, I want to discern that you did click on cancel. I don't want to do anything. I just want to go back. But if you click on anything else, I first want the action to take place, insert or delete or update or whatever, right? And then I want to redirect, right? Okay, so here I want to discern that if there's a cancel, to do that we can use this this event variable to look at the name of the command. The name of the command is the ID that we gave it. We can say command name. In this case, is if it's that, we're going to say if e.command name is equal to cancel, then we want to do this redirect. Okay. And so now if we click on cancel, it goes back, right? If I go create and I do test 234, 234, 1, I'll do the insert, it goes back. There it is. It's inserted. Make sense? Everyone okay? Let's see, what else? You could have an update page, which looks very, very similar to this one, or to the return, right? So I'm gonna add a new page, and I'll call it 050 edit page. Right? So the edit page is kind of a mixture between, it's a hybrid between the insert and the details page, right? Because the update needs to know which record are you updating, right? I need to show you the values that were already there, right? And you need to type your new values, and then there should be buttons that will allow you to update. If you update, you go back, or if you cancel, you go back, right? If you update and then go back. If you cancel, you don't do anything and just go back, right? So it's kind of a mixture between insert and the details page, right? Because notice in the new one, in the return insert, we don't show the details of anybody, right? Because we're inserting a brand new one. So in the edit page, let's see. Let me start brand new. Let me start brand new. Actually, do I need to? Let me see. Actually, I don't have to start brand new. Let's see. So in the design, what I'm going to do here is going to say, I'm going to look at the properties. Look at the properties. And if you remember, it was using, we said that we wanted the insert buttons, but I don't want the insert buttons. I want the update buttons. Right? So I'm going to turn on the update buttons. Right? The default mode is edit. Okay, so now notice that it adds the update and cancel button, right? So I'm going to save that. I'm going to run that. And by default, since I didn't tell it what record I'm editing, I didn't tell it which record, it assumes it's the first record that you want to edit, right? And notice that it allows me to edit it, right? So for instance, amazing 1, 2, 3, best ever 1, 2, 3. If I update, it stays here. It's not going anywhere. But if I go into my review, my list, and I refresh this page, notice that the first record was edited. You see that? Right, so that update is working. It is updating. We just have to change it, right? We need to be able to pass it, right? The some kind of review ID so that I can tell you which review are you editing. Right? So let's do that. What I want to do is I want to link this link to create page. I want to change it, right? I want to create a new version that links to the edit page also, right? So let me copy that, and that's going to link to the, I'm going to call it 055, link to edit page. Edit page. Okay. So the edit page, so link to the edit page is, let's see, let's look at the design. What we want to do is add another column here, right? So that with an edit column. So add new column, and it's a hyperlink column, hyperlink. The text is going to be edit. I mean, remember that we already have edit links, right? That allows us to edit in place, yes? But this edit button will allow you to, edit things that are larger, like the content, right? If it's use text areas and things like that. So the URL field is the ID, and I want to navigate to edit page. This edit page, right? Review ID, and then this will be 0. And say OK. Also, the edit page has an H1 that says new review. Instead, this should say editing review. Edit review. There we go. OK, let's run the linking. Let's click on that. So it links to the create, it links to the details, and now it's going to link to the edit page, right? So if I click on edit, it's going to come here. But notice that it's always looking at the first one, even though I'm passing the review. Why is it always showing the first one? Because this page is not doing anything with the review ID. It's not doing anything. It's not filtering, right? we have to go and in this new page, right, the edit page, we need to load that record, that first record, right? We have to say we need to say this is a SQL. This is a SQL, right? It is run at, and it is a connection string. Oops, we're over time. Right, we'll continue this on Thursday, right?